Can I interest you guys in not just one, but two new cards for Nick Fury? Nick Fury is an upcoming hero in the Marvel Champions expansion, Agents of S.h.i.e.L.D., which is releasing in February this year. So I'm really excited for that. Growing up in England, 007 Bond was kind of a big thing. And, according to scientists, all Englishmen are at least 20% Bond. Don't quote me on that. And it makes you think because he has a license to kill, ACDC, license to thrill. What kind of license does our spy Nick Fury have? Well, he has a driver's license, or maybe a pilot's license, because we have Fury's flying car as the first card I'm revealing to you guys. I can't believe I get to reveal this. Look at the name, look at the art. He has a flying car, and this is made funnier because he has a stealth suit. You can sneak around in a flying car. What a crazy card. I love it. It's a 2-cost support, aerial, tech, and vehicle traded. Hero action is to exhaust the flying car, remove one threat from your suit form upgrade, ready Nick Fury. He gained the aerial trait until the end of the round. Guys, if you weren't aware, Nick Fury is kind of an aerial hero. You do have to get this card, but with player side schemes and an upcoming new support card that has already been revealed, which we'll go into in some detail later, you have at least two other ways to find the car in addition to finding the car itself, making it a bit more consistent than a lot of characters that have to find a card to go aerial, and it readies you up. This is obviously the big gain from it. It's a little bit reminiscent of Magneto's cape, a hero that's recently just come out and has a way to ready every turn. That's what the support card provides, a way for Nick Fury to keep on readying. It does require you to remove one threat from your suit, but when Nick Fury does a basic thought, his Gather Intel ability triggers, and he gets to add one threat to his suit. So you can spend a threat to ready up, but then if you do a basic thought, you get that one threat back onto your suit. So this is fantastic, super fun. I'm going to talk more about it later on in the video. But now, let's look at the other new Nick Fury card, and that is s.h.i.e.l.D., which I think obviously stands for Electromagnetic Shield. It's a 2-cost upgrade, preparation and tech traded, interrupt with the defense kind of thing in brackets, which does mean you're defending, which is meaningful in the game for certain card interactions. And it says when you would take any amount of damage from an attack, this card s.h.i.e.l.D. prevent all of that damage. So yeah, this is a little bit more expensive to block all the damage from an attack than say, maybe the average ally or, tough or stun, status cards, but it is something you can put on the board as a preparation card and trigger it when you need. Unlike blocking with allies or using status cards, it's not going to care about stalwart, it's not going to care about piercing, it's not going to care about overkill. None of those keywords can stop this card, which makes it a very powerful card to use against some of the hardest, meanest cards that can get you defeated in the game. So yeah, I think it's actually a pretty interesting card to add to his repertoire. I'm going to talk more about this at the later on in the video too, but this is the big new card reveals. He's got this 2-cost support, a flying car, which I did not see coming. And then we have this s.h.i.e.l.D., kind of an emergency way to kind of potentially block damage and keep you in the game. Before we jump into the full, villain theory, nerdy treatment, analyzing these cards, what works with them, how's he going to use these cards, we've got a couple of other very small reveals here. First of all, the next new card reveals are coming from my friend, my co-host on Shadow of the Cast, my podcast for this game, Nelson All Over. So check out his channel this coming Tuesday, and you should get to see some spicy new cards. The second thing I can reveal here, and it's kind of minor, I guess, but looking at the cards we have revealed for Nick Fury, we can figure out how many he has of certain cards, but not all of them. With these cards have been given, which are card 10 and 12 respectively, and 40 and 42 in the overall expansion, I can see that he has 2 copies of Spray Fire. This is his attack card that hits multiple targets at the table. You choose a player, and the villain and every minion engaged with that player are going to take 3 damage, which can be increased to 6 damage with his assault suit. This confirms we have 2 of them. Overall, his cards look a bit like this. If you're not that into, the nerdy side of the game, this might not make a lot of sense. But long story short, because I can see that Furious Flying Car is card number 10, I know that card number 9 must be another copy of Spray Fire. And that's especially good for decks built around attacking multiple targets. It's kind of an interesting avenue that is now a lot more open because he has double the cards we previously had confirmed to do that. Not just 1 copy of Spray Fire, but 2. And to look at his overall kit, yep, card number 10 is the Flying Car. Card number 12 is s.h.i.e.l.D., which leaves card number 2, probably a signature ally, 11 and 15 to be revealed. So I think at least one more will be a preparation card, just like s.h.i.e.l.D. So if you just wanted a quick look at the cards, well, you have it now. But if you really want to join me and get nerdy, I'm very excited to talk through these and analyze them in more detail. Let's start with s.h.i.e.l.D. because, let's save the best till last. I love this card. If you had to, make me pick a favorite, I'm picking the Flying Car. I think we're all picking the Flying Car. It's a flying car. Before that, though, what we need to do is consider that both of these are tech cards, and tech cards have a bit of synergy within Marvel Champions, especially because of the new cards coming up in the expansion that I mentioned. we have Leo Fitz and Gemma Simmons. Leo Fitz and Gemma Simmons both get a discount if the hero playing them has the shield trait, and Nick Fury has it on both his hero and alter ego side, so these are effectively one-cost cards for Nick Fury. Leo Fitz has an alter ego action, exhaust him, search your deck for a tech card and add it to your hand. If you have Leo on the board, if you find him maybe in your opening hand, you have an extra chance to get the flying car out on turn 1, which is going to be really powerful. A ready every turn is going to be, it adds a huge amount of consistency, and, it is very, very good. Gemma Simmons, on the other hand, can generate a resource or a tech card, helping you pay for the car, but Leo can also fund the EM shield, and Gemma can also help pay for that, which is good. If you want another way to find the car, we have build support, which is going to be able to put that in play, or Leo in play, and then he can get the car, but you might as well cut out the middleman, I say, because that car is very, very good. Since they both have the tech trait, you might also be thinking, how does Repurpose interact with these cards? Well, EM Shield can be repurposed. Repurpose is a zero-cost card that comes with Penny Parker, SPDR's pack, and it says, hero action, discard a tech upgrade you control, ready your hero, and choose a stat to get a boost in equal to the cost of the card you discarded. That's, a bit of an abbreviated explanation, but long story short, you get rid of a tech card, you get a stat boost, but generally, you want to get some value out of whatever tech card you're repurposing, and then, give it a new purpose, and once you use EM Shield, it's gone, so maybe not the perfect repurpose target, not in the way that maybe Energy Shield or Plasma Pistol or Force Field Generator would be already in the aspects as tech cards. But what's really interesting here is that repurpose works with Fury's Flying Car, not in the way you think, because Fury's Flying Car is a support card and repurpose only works on upgrades. There are very, 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 very few tech cards that are not upgrades, and this is one of them. But repurpose gives your stats a boost. So yeah, let's say you repurpose, you ready up, you get a big attack or fort off with it. You can then ready up with Fury's Flying Car and get another huge attack or fort off. So actually, repurpose is really, really going to benefit from Fury's Flying Car, so that is pretty cool. So now let's truly focus on EM Shield. EM Shield also has the preparation trait, which is particularly interesting with other new cards we're getting. The basic card we have is Practice Plan, which is going to let us put EM Shield back in our hand after we use it, and that means we can block all damage from an attack completely, then get this card back to do it again next turn potentially. So it really does fortify your defenses if you're up against some kind of villain that otherwise has very difficult damage to mitigate. We also have the Secret Agent upgrade, which puts threat onto your suit when you trigger preparations. And you want threat on your suit, so having another preparation to trigger works very well with Secret Agent. Now, I think the obvious card to compare EM Shield to is Defensive Stance. Both are 2-cost upgrades, both trigger when you would take damage, and EM Shield prevents all of the damage, while Defensive Stance only prevents 3. So as a hero card, yeah, it's better than the aspect card, that's typically what we'd expect, but there's some more things at play here that this helps demonstrate. Defensive Stance works whenever you're taking damage from any source, where EM Shield only works from attacks, so Defensive Stance is actually a bit more flexible, even if it only blocks up to 3 damage. However, EM Shield is an interrupt, not a hero interrupt. This means that if you happen to get attacked in Alter Ego, and there are a few nasty effects that do that, it will work there. And EM Shield also has defense in brackets after the interrupt, meaning that when you use this to prevent damage, you are classed as defending in the game, so things that want you to defend to get bonuses, like Unflappable, are actually going to trigger it from EM Shield, which is a fun little synergy you could potentially build around if you were so inclined. Speaking of defending, though, EM Shield effectively is protecting you from one villain attack. That is its primary use. You could use it against minions, you probably won't. But EM Shield is a 2-cost card, and it just does that. That is its sole purpose. You could play a 2-cost ally, use it, maybe get a response from it entering play, and then it could block for you as well. Status cards, Toughs, Stuns, typically going to be slightly cheaper than EM Shield as well a lot of the time, or do something in addition, and that gives us a bit of a dilemma. Why would we play EM Shield when we can put these other cards into our deck? And one of the reasons is that it basically just works against everything. As I kind of said earlier, Overkill, Stalwart, Piercing, none of these things affect EM Shield, which makes it very, very good. And a card I could compare it to, which gets quite a lot of significant use, is Cable's Telekinetic Force Field, which is a 2-cost upgrade, which also prevents all damage taken. And this is a little bit more flexible than EM Shield, but nonetheless, it's quite often used against nasty attacks on your own character, Cable, when you're playing him. And EM Shield will be able to do the same thing in that regard. And I'd also like to point out, the cards which bypass allies and the status cards and things typically happen to be some of the most powerful cards in the game that can be used against you. We're talking things like Fanaticism from Ronan, Avatar of Death from Thanos, Remote Navigation gives Venom Goblin extra boost cards, which is kind of crazy. We've got things getting us attacked from Alter Ego or changing our form unexpectedly when we might not have prepared other defenses. So there's kind of a weird world where in a lot of situations, maybe even most situations, most scenarios, we might actually be better off blocking through some other means rather than using EM Shield. But on one side of the spectrum, if you're a newer player, maybe you don't have a lot of cards to add, in deck building, EM Shield is going to be really useful to make sure you have that defensive option in there and going to be really good. But on the other end, if you're playing the hardest scenarios in the game, maybe on higher difficulties, we also have Total Annihilation from Standard 2 is an example of a very, very scary attack card that can end games. Uh, EM Shield is really, really good. So newer players, maybe just getting into the game, and veteran players playing the hardest content might actually like this card more than a big chunk of the player base. So I thought that was kind of funny. So it kind of puts the card in a weird spot. But there is just one elephant in the room I want to talk about, and that is the fact that EM Shield only works when you get attacked, and I've already talked about that. But Nick Fury has a stealth form, which is when an enemy would attack you, it schemes instead. So he has a whole kind of form, a whole mode where he's not actually getting attacked, meaning the opportunities to use EM Shield might be a lot less than the average hero would otherwise have. But how much he's going to be in stealth form compared to his assault form remains to be seen. I think different player counts, different aspects, different scenarios. You might be in stealth form a different amount depending on all of these different factors, so it's very difficult to say. I also want to say that EM Shield, as it reminds me of Cable's telekinetic force field, maybe it helps counter a card in Nick Fury's Nemesis set or something like that. Perhaps it's very handy to have around in case that comes out. So I'll have to wait and see quite how useful it is. But I think it's very interesting, and I want to say I really like the art here. I like all the effects coming off the the watch and around protecting him, deflecting the kind of shots away. It's got very kind of simple colors, very plain background, but it's really vibrant, really stands out, and I quite like that. Now, my friends, let's talk about the car. This card, just from its name and picture alone, is fun. They have laid the foundations for fun, and they have delivered in what it does here. Being able to ready up is going to open up various different builds, make certain builds that rely on your basics that's more powerful and aerial. You're flying now all the aerial cards that are released or maybe releasing in the future. Uh, no, I've got no inside information, but the hero silhouettes we've seen, one of the popular suggestions is we might be getting Falcon this wave. There is a movie coming up starring Sam Wilson. So it does seem like a great time for that to happen soon. So that is exciting. So looking at Nick Fury and how he works, I did mention earlier his Gather Intel ability on his identity card. When you make a basic fort, you get to place one threat on your suit from upgrade, and you can spend that threat for various bonuses, such as from the assault side of the stealth suit. This means that even from turn 1, I can do a basic fort, get that threat onto my suit, and then I can ready up with a flying car, and I could fort again. Now in solo, there might not be enough threat to keep doing this, but in multiplayer, there definitely is. So that's kind of the baseline that I'm looking at here. But I also want to consider how the flying car works with the assault side of this suit. This card has an interrupt which says when you attack, remove up to 3 threat. This attack deals 1 extra damage for each threat removed, and that means I could attack with Nick Fury, spend a bunch of threat on powering it up, ready up with the car, which will cost another threat, then attack again, spending 3 more threat from assault, and I've got basically 10 damage when it looked like I only had 2 previously. This is going to require 7 threat to be on the suit, which is quite a big ask when he's got other cards that want, to, consume the threat and things going on and just generating that in the first place. But nonetheless, I think this is a powerful burst option that you will not use often, but you'll keep in the back of your mind. Maybe it will help you finish off a villain or take down some minions that had you in a bad situation. And that is a pretty powerful tool to have in your arsenal as well. Since it readies you up, it's really going to encourage Nick Fury to take builds that increase his basic stats, such as attack and thwarting, and, Heroic Intuition is probably going to be the best one. Notably in multiplayer, where there's the threat to support him thwarting more, and that's just going to mean, fought for free, get a threat on my suit, spend that threat on the flying car to ready up, fought again, and get that threat back. And yeah, it's free extra threat removal in that case. With the readying, you can also do something with combat training and aggression. We also have cards like specialized training, which can increase things further. And playing specialized training will give Nick Fury a new place to put all that thwarting, which is kind of more efficient for him since it generates threat on his suit. Or you could make like me right now, put on your symbiote suit, and you get even more stat bonuses, which you'll benefit from when you get to ready with Fury's flying car. Maybe not the best build, but certainly kind of a fun one to go for. Now, the other part of Fury's car lets us go aerial, and we have to talk about Dive Bomb if we're talking about aerial cards and characters. Dive Bomb with Hone Technique is quite an infamous, very powerful combo. Hone Technique increases the damage an attack from aggression will deal by its cost. So Dive Bomb with Hone Technique goes from dealing 7 damage to the main target and 1 to all others, to dealing 11 damage and 5 damage to all others, which is kind of crazy. This is one of the best combos in the game for 4-player games. You can just wipe out like the whole board almost, with a few exceptions. If you add in Nick Fury's, Assault Suit, which can increase the damage by an additional 3 by spending Threat, Dive Bomb here can go from dealing 11 and 5 to dealing 14 and 8. 8 damage across the entire board, wiping out every minion. Uh, and in a multi-villain scenario, that is especially devastating. So I think that's really, really fun. Nick Fury is especially good for Hone Technique, since he has this Fury's Watch card, which generates mental resources by spending Threat. So that's really, really interesting. Now, of course, you don't actually need Hone Technique to get better value out of Dive Bomb than most characters, kind of like how Angel doesn't need to run Hone Technique to get good value out of Dive Bomb. If you're Aerial from the flying car, you can just play Dive Bomb and increase its damage from the Assault side of your suit form, and it will go up to doing 10 damage to the main target and 4 damage to every other target, which is still very, very good. Of course, there are other aerial cards. I think one of the more popular ones might be Ever Vigilant. It will, again, maybe be more for multiplayer, so there's enough threat, but you could thwart, ready with the flying car, thwart again, ready with Ever Vigilant, and remove 2 threat as well with that, thwart again, and it's just a lot of value from readying up and thwarting. We have other cards like You Unroll, Pitchback. Interesting to note, Power of Flight can pay for Fury's flying car since it has the aerial trait as well as, aerial events. So a little bit of a funny use there. I don't know how popular that's going to be, but I thought it was worth mentioning, if any, for the, unlikelihood of that interaction. Honestly, that kind of brings me to the end of it. Fury's Flying Car, really good for readying builds that use your basic stats. Any other cards that, interact with your basic stats, this is going to help encourage and, maybe make use of. And yeah, aerial stuff, since we can get it from build support as well as Leo Fits, it's going to be quite consistent to set this up. Obviously, there will be times all 3 of those cards are buried at the bottom of your deck, but most cases you're going to be able to make this happen, and that's really, really fun to have. Flying Nick Fury, I didn't see it coming, or what do you guys think? What do you think of these cards? Let me know in the comments. Thank you again to Fantasy Flight Games for letting me reveal these cards. I've really enjoyed doing this. I really like these cards, especially that card. It's so good. I am really looking forward to Agents of S.h.i.e.L.D. Hopefully you guys are as well, and I'll see you in the next video.